Sunday, the 21st of December, 2025, also the winter solstice, meaning that the sun is traveling above the Tropic of Capricorn, the shortest days, longest nights, and within the eastern region of Canada, Eastern Standard Time, it's going to be at 10:03 a.m. is when you experience it. We'll have a daylight for approximately 8 hours and 45 or 43 minutes or whatever, and then we're going to start to have longer days, shorter nights. I'm still not feeling well. I've never been this sick in like years, even throughout COVID and beyond. Like I was lucky enough not to get sick, and the last 2 days, I don't know what it is. But I've been drinking teas, taking healthy supplements like iodine and nattokinase and echinacea. And anyway, so before I get into the video by Mike Benz, it was such a great video. That guy is so brilliant. I would love to do a podcast with him, or even not even a podcast, just to sit down with him and discuss everything, like share our notes. I'll bring my laptop. Anyway, and so before I get into that, I did want to get into a few really important points here coming out of Canada and the world. And so I did a post yesterday on LinkedIn. I want to read it because it is applicable to what I'm going to be discussing. And it's a conversation I had with someone regarding 5G warfare and cyber warfare and what we can do about it. So anyway, the title, Cognitive Resilience in the Era of Hybrid Warfare, a Counterintelligence Framework for the Individual. Just want to make sure you can still see this. Okay. All right. So this is my LinkedIn. It's a lot more professional than my social media, just to be clear. Again, different platforms. And anyway, Cognitive Resilience in the Era of Hybrid Warfare, a Counterintelligence Framework for the Individual. Defensive measures against fifth-generation warfare, 5GW, and informational manipulation. The geopolitical landscape has evolved. We have moved beyond kinetic conflict in the domain of fifth-generation warfare, and they call it 5GW, often referred to within intelligence circles as cognitive warfare, or even cyber warfare sometimes. In this theater, the objective of adversarial state actors and institutional power brokers is not the conquest of territory, but control of the mind. Talked about this a lot. So the goal of these influence operations is to destabilize social cohesion, degrade decision-making capabilities, and engineer consent. For the individual, the challenge is no longer just physical security, but maintaining informational sovereignty. The following framework outlines tactical countermeasures to detect, degrade, and neutralize hostile influence campaigns. So I think this is important. I think this should be, this is obviously open source. I threw it on LinkedIn and Facebook, but I do believe that the average human being does need to have access to this type of information because the echo chambers that people are in, it's just really, again, look at the world now. It's increasingly getting more and more volatile, and it is because of these campaigns. But anyways, cognitive resilience, fortifying the human domain. The primary payload of modern information warfare is emotion contagion. Sophisticated algorithms and psychological profiling are utilized by influence architects to bypass the prefrontal cortex, logic, and hijack the amygdala, emotion. The threat, weaponized effect. Hostile actors utilize high arousal content specifically designed to induce rage or panic, to trigger a reactive state, rendering the target susceptible to suggestion. The countermeasure. Strategic pause. Adopt the intelligence analyst discipline of emotional detachment when encountering high valence information. Enforce a mandatory analysis window, 24 to 48 hours. I'm talking about the average human being. To wait. People like me, again, we have to respond to information that comes out almost immediately in order to try to debunk it, or at least assess it to see if it's true or not. And oftentimes it's not. Anyway, before integration or dissemination, in cognitive warfare, immediate reaction is a vulnerability. Patience is a defense. The threat, induced fatalism. Narratives are engineered to create a sense of systemic inevitability, leading to demoralization and political apathy. The countermeasure, operational localization. Shift focus from macro geopolitical anxieties to micro level influence. Engage in tangible local governance and community organizations. Action at the local level provides concrete feedback loops that counter induced helplessness. So when I tell people to email or reach out to your local leadership or to members of parliament, etc., I say to be professional, peaceful, but you do need to engage. at this point. It's going to help you, it's going to help them. But again, it has to be peaceful and respectful, and you have to bring receipts. And again, you could just go on my channel. There's a lot of sources that I've provided over the years, and you could just go to that and refer to that. Or Pat King, I did give him a lot of my information as well. I don't know if you want to get it from him, but he has it, and it's out there. Anyway, information hygiene, breaking the algorithmic loop. Reliance on curated algorithmic feeds, example, social media aggregators, constitutes a critical intelligence failure for the individual. These systems function as surveillance tools that build psychometric profiles to tailor manipulation. The threat, algorithmic profiling. Every interaction generates data points used to refine the psychological targeting against you. The countermeasure, digital obfuscation. Sorry, my mouth is a little dry just because I've been sweating so much overnight. Too much information, but I'm just, again, not feeling well. Anyways, minimize your digital signature. Utilize privacy-centric browsers like Brave or Tor and non-tracking search engines to deprive the adversarial networks of the behavioral data needed to model your responses. Again, this is for the average person. I do have a VPN, and I do connect to different countries, but it is, again, something that you have to pay for. And so there are ways that I'm able to get away from like these echo chambers, but it does cost money. And these are easy, free ways to assist yourself. Anyways, the threat, narrative gatekeeping. Reliance on centralized fact-checking entities introduces bias and vulnerability to institutional capture. The countermeasure, open source intelligence, OSINT. Adopt the methodology of an independent analyst. Verify primary sources, raw video, official documentation, rather than relying on secondary interpretations. Triangulate data points from diverse sources to construct an accurate operational picture. Because even myself, I find that if I find myself on my social media that I'm getting too much, into an echo chamber, I realize that and I correct it. And there are ways to correct it. Again, even following people that are on different sides of the political spectrum, different interests. Communication security, decentralization of assets. Centralized digital infrastructure spanning communication platforms and financial systems creates choke points that state and corporate entities can leverage for coercion. And by the way, Evan Solomon, and I'm going to share this, he just signed a deal with the EU to make digital IDs interoperable across borders on the 8th of December. And I'm going to get into that because I posted on that. Anyways, this is important, so let me just make sure that I got the right area here. Okay, so leverage for coercion. The threat, the echo chamber effect. I talk about this so much. It's so important that people are aware of this. People that are watching my channel, they are, but a lot of people are not. Anyways, algorithms segregate users into homogeneous clusters, amplifying radicalization and making populations easier to steer. The countermeasure, red teaming. Actively consume intelligence from diverse and adversarial sources. Understanding the opposing narrative strategy is essential for detecting blind spots in your own analysis. So even when I say, I don't like listening to Rosemary Barton and David Cochran and people like Rachel Maddow, et cetera, because again, they lie and they're morons and they are underqualified for the positions. And again, there's no trust with CBC or mainstream media anymore because again, they're just full of propaganda and people like me who see through it, right? And it's just really frustrating that they're still again in these positions where they're DEI hires. And anyway. But yeah, you still have to try to listen to them just to, cipher through the bullshit. The threat, surveillance of comms. Unencrypted communication channels are assumed to be compromised. That's fairly obvious. The countermeasure, signal integrity. Migrate sensitive communications to end-to-end encrypted protocols like Signal or Session. Telegram to varying degrees as well. WhatsApp, you will be compromised respectfully. In the last couple of years, they have become more accessible to different threatening actors internationally. Anyways, treat information security, InfoSec, as a standard operating procedure, not an exception. Okay, the threat, financial deplatforming. The move towards centralized digital currencies increases the risk of targeted financial exclusion. Why is this in cognitive warfare? Because this is a part of the tactic that is used and employed. And we have our own government at the highest levels, like the Carney level and the Solomon level, that are actively utilizing these tactics against their own people. And this is criminal. So I would like it if people would stop focusing on these fake hate crimes and actually focus on actual real crimes that are actually destroying the lives of Canadians and people internationally. And is that too much to ask? The countermeasure, economic diversification, maintain liquidity in physical cash and support decentralized local economic networks. Reducing reliance on centralized digital transaction layers enhances personal autonomy. The human terrain, the ultimate firewall. Digital influence operations rely on automation, isolating the individual to make them dependent on the digital feed for reality construction. Notice what they did during the pandemic with the lockdowns and the isolation. Again, it had been for me like over 2 years since I even got to see my family because they all lived in Quebec, and just that I wasn't able to go to gyms or restaurants, etc. I wasn't able to do my work. That was the biggest thing. I lost all my work contracts, and they were big contracts. Working with Global Affairs Canada, DART, CBS, you name it. I was working with the highest levels of government. As soon as I started introducing a possible lab leak, possible gain of function, Wuhan Games, Li Wenliang, people thought I was nuts. And I was right and they were wrong. But anyways, it is what it is. They're still in positions of power. Anyway. This is important, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so digital influence. The main robust defense against digital subversion is physical reality. So I already shared that one. Okay, so the countermeasure, human network density. Cultivate strong face-to-face alliances. Physical communities are resistant to digital subversion because trust is verified through direct experience, not mediated by screens. So it was brilliant what they did during COVID. The threat, identity deconstruction. Narratives that seek to erase historical context create a blank slate population that is easier to reprogram. We're seeing that that's happening more and more. Completely incorrect in talking about like actual real Canadian history, and misinformation about white people within Canada and our history, and then just white people in general. Like in Western countries, there is an attack on, again, their culture, their identity, and it has been for many, many years, and it's getting worse. People are falling for these cyber warfare tactics. Anyways, conclusion. To survive a fifth-generation war, one must cease to be a passive consumer of information and become an active analyst of it. The winning strategy is non-compliance. Detach emotionally from the news cycle, decentralize your information and resources, and re-engage with the physical world. When you refuse to react to the provocation, the operation fails. So literally, I'm telling you to touch grass. That is the best way to defeat cognitive warfare or 5G warfare. And this was well received. I posted this last night. Again, maybe a bit of a loser to be working on that on a Saturday night. But anyway, I hope it was helpful. So now on to Evan Solomon. So this is hard to read, but signed on 8 December 2025 in Montreal. Evan Solomon, the most incompetent cabinet pick. Anyway, Mark Carney chose, pushed this through. And Mark Carney, I've already talked about the art deal scandal that happened with Evan Solomon years ago. And of course, he's going to hire him to be in this new cabinet position. It's new, AI. And again, he is already destroying Canada's sovereignty and future. And he's a moron. Why would you do this? Anyways, he needs to read my my article and take some notes. Anyways, this is a security breach of unfathomable proportions, and even Sweden, Poland, and Portugal are in legal battles for failing to properly implement the EU's own Digital Services Act. Even people within their own country don't want to do it. So pushback from other EU countries, and there's multiple. I'm just giving a few examples. Austria, France, and Germany. Pushback. And so why are we doing this? We're not even... Canada is a North American. We are not European. We come from Europe, a lot of us, and the people that built this country to what it is right now, but we are Canadian, and our strongest allies should be the US. This is the contact information to reach out to Evan Solomon's office. And if it's anything like the last 5 years, they don't answer, they don't listen, they don't care, which is frustrating, but it is what it is. You just keep on having to try. And the more people that try, the less likely they are going to be able to ignore what they're doing. So a lot of news has been coming out regarding the 2020 elections. So Biden was an illegitimate president. I don't support everything Trump has done or said, but he should have been president, not Biden. And so I'm talking about the votes. So this is from Mike Benz, who I'm going to share a video from soon. But Biden won Georgia by 11,779 votes. Now, over 5 years later, they admit to 315,000 votes in Georgia were actually counted illegally. Fulton County admits they violated the rules in 2020 when they certified over 315 early votes that lacked poll worker signatures. And there's even more. It's not even just Georgia. So again, this was an illegitimate president. And I wonder what's going to finally happen regarding that. And again, this is yet again people saying, oh, the election wasn't stolen. The election wasn't stolen. January 6th, all that bullshit. Again, a deep state planned coup attempt. And again, no one's in jail yet for that. But again, a lot of January 6ers, heroes, protesters, people not even at January 6th, the Capitol itself, went to jail. And yeah, people like David Lazarus and Harry Dunn lying under oath. Jail. Straight to jail. Okay, this was funny. This is regarding the RCMP's post that now has comments disabled regarding recruitment to join the RCMP. And because of what happened ever since COVID, hiring people like Brenda Lucky, who were wholly unqualified to hold the position. She was the like the head of the RCMP during COVID. And again, respectfully speaking, a waste of space. I know that sounds mean, but I'm just at the point where like these DEI woke hires, we're overlooking real, talented, qualified men that deserve these positions, and they're getting overlooked and careers destroyed that they worked so hard to build up to for these incompetent clowns. And so I can't say names or anything like that, but even yesterday, my partner was talking to someone that's high ranking. I won't say in what organization because I don't want to, I don't want to triangulate. But he was slated to be the chief of police, and he had 28 a lot, like decades worth of service, and he worked in really high at he was an incident response commander. He was anyway, I'm already giving it away. So like chief of defense, sorry, not chief of defense, chief of staff, investigative work, anyways, like multiple high level positions, and he got overlooked to be the chief of police. That's what it was. And so I'll say he's law enforcement, but anyways, I won't say where. And so he was slated to be the chief of police in this area. And again, like decades worth of service, and literally in really challenging, difficult positions that required, again, expertise. And he was overlooked by a woman. So she got to get that position, and she had 10 years less service than he did. 10 years less service, and things are going really bad in this area. Spoiler alert. So again, like this DEI woke push, it really, when merit is absolutely a requirement for certain jobs, and you put in people for some kind of a experiment, it doesn't help them, because again, they lose, because people don't like it from within. They know that person doesn't deserve that position. They don't want to listen to that person. And the same thing with Brenda Lucky. She was not qualified or competent to be in that position. There were multiple men with decorated service, heroes to their friggin' countries, and they got overlooked for her. Same thing with Jenny Carignan. She is a DEI woke hire. She's incompetent, not fit, underqualified, emotionally unstable, even crying during a speech or whatever regarding racism in Canada. She didn't even hold a div command position. So like Air Force, Navy, Army, CANSOFCOM, whatever, she has never held a div command position. And she has been a witch hunt her whole career. At the end of her career, for the last 10 to 15 years, has been literally to go after white men within the Canadian Armed Forces. And that's it. That's been her job. And same thing with the RCMP. And so RCMP ad campaigns gets roasted into oblivion. And so this was their post. So North Vancouver's RCMP, that end of shift feeling. If you are looking for purpose, challenge, and teamwork, we are hiring. Join our team and make a difference every day. So these are the comments. A career in which you can confiscate guns from citizens on the prairies one day and literally carry luggage across the border for illegal migrants the next. Then apparently get drugged up and loose after work. Cool. If you're down to kill hostages, do we have a job for you? From David Robinson. True Sticker 01011. Let me explain this better. If you're looking for a meaningless government job where you will not be stopping crime but will be arresting people for social media posts, join our team and make a difference by bothering people with tint on their windows and lift kits. www.joinretardation.com. Anyway, she meant to say com. Right. I'm Junior. Do I get to take off my badge and name tag and beat Canadians protesting peacefully for bodily autonomy? Because they did that multiple times, and I've done videos on it. Maybe 50 years ago when you guys were based. Now, no, sorry, I'm straight. From Chris Tomlinson. Chris Mister of Smart Arsery. I haven't beaten the ever-living crap out of grandmas protesting vaccine mandates yet. The RCMP does sound appealing. I'd love to machine gun some farm animals. Do we get a horse too? That's from Chef. Oh my God. My resume says I'm easily brainwashed. Hired. You wouldn't hire me. I'm a straight white male. And that's actually true. And I know I keep on being redundant, but I know so many men that even try to apply to be within like law enforcement, fire department, and military. And because they were white men, they were not picked up, despite the fact that they completely blew over the credentials. And so I'm talking about the Ottawa Police Services. I know someone, I won't say his name, but he's a former CFL player. He's like 6'2", 6'3", and he's solid. And he's still in his 20s, I believe. He might be in his early 30s now, but he applied years ago. And I was even a reference for him, and he had a great resume. He has a degree. I think he might have a criminology degree. And so yeah, super fit, smart, educated, but he was a white male. And so we're getting, anyway, I get frustrated with that. And then even my partner, before he joined the military, like he wanted to be law enforcement, and he's glad that his career turned out the way it did. And he's worked a lot with law enforcement as well. But he because he was a white man, even in the 90s, like this was happening. And so he was not accepted because of that. And then even my ex, he wanted to be a firefighter, and his father is actually really close friends with multiple people within the fire department where they live. Even during Christmas time when I've been there, the fire department has actually had people stop over just to say hello and Merry Christmas and things like that. And yeah, so a very close community and stuff like that. But again, because this guy was white, even though he has a criminology degree, he's like 6'2". He's a bodybuilder, and so because he was considered to be a white guy in Ottawa, he also didn't get it. He made it to his the final interview, the final round, and they cut the recordings off. And one of the guys that was there basically alluded to the fact that it's because he's a white guy. Those are just a few examples of many. Why are we doing that? I don't understand why we are doing that. I'm giving you examples of guys that are over 6'2", all these guys I'm talking about that are over 220 pounds solid muscle, okay, and have degrees, and in some cases multiple degrees, and they're getting overlooked for DEI hires. Why are we doing that? I would feel so safe any one of those guys I just mentioned coming to save me from a fire or an attack or whatever. So Alex Murphy, you're as shit at making memes as you are at being professional law enforcement. Nothing more cringe than government jumping on the meme train after it's way past its expiration date. Do the Harlem Shake next. Okay, so now, yeah, they disable accounts. So they don't care about feedback. I mean, I hope that this is, again, waking some people up. People are sick of this.
While Canadians struggle with high taxes and crushing inflation, here are 10 egregious examples of how the Liberals have been wasting your tax dollars. $8.2 million on gender-just, low-carbon rice in Vietnam.
Why?
$4.5 million on accelerating green and climate finance in the Philippines. $2 million on family planning in Nigeria. $6.5 million on climate resilience and women's empowerment in Moldova. $1 million on intercultural dialogue in Ecuador. $5.2 million on gender sensitivity in UN peacekeeping. $20 million on stopping open defecation in Ghana. $7.2 million on a gender-responsive systems approach to universal healthcare in the Philippines. 220,000 on indigenous wisdom for climate resilience research in Pakistan, and 1.6 million on greening the global finance system. And let's not forget, 22 billion for Ukraine and more than 355 million for Gaza and Palestine. Canadians are dying before they can
Now
get
do
health
Israel.
care. Too many First Nations communities still don't have clean drinking water. Food bank usage is at record highs. Canadians deserve to know about this scandal. Share this video.
And that's only the like icing on the top. Yeah, so this was an interesting post, and it happened in Canada as well, because again, I was one of those people on that friggin' list that were targeted and classified as some kind of a radical extremist, which is so moronic and quite offensive, to be honest with you. Anyways, that explains why teachers in New York City. Okay, so leading report. So breaking Biden administration labeled U.S. citizens who oppose the COVID-19 mandates as domestic violent extremists, according to newly declassified intelligence records. But even beyond that, I actually have, wait a minute here. This is actually from, because again, I like to verify things before I post them. So from Homeland Security itself, I actually did my own search just to corroborate and not just get from like leaked information, because again, I'm a firm believer in OSINT, open source information. Because the summary of terrorism threat to the U.S. homeland. So this was February 7th, 2022. The United States remains in a heightened threat environment fueled by several factors, including an online environment filled with false or misleading narratives and conspiracy theories, and other forms of misdis and malinformation, MDM, anyways, introduced and or amplified by foreign and domestic threat actors. These threat actors seek to exacerbate societal frictions, to sow discord and undermine public trust in government institutions, to encourage unrest, which could potentially inspire acts of violence. The hypocrisy in this statement. So mass casualty attacks and other acts of targeted violence conducted by lone offenders and small groups acting in furtherance of ideological beliefs and or personal grievances pose an ongoing threat to the nation. While the conditions underlying the unpredictability and complexity of the threat environment, while the conditions underlying the heightened threat landscape have not significantly changed over the last year, the convergence of the following factors has increased the volatility, unpredictability, and complexity of the threat environment. Number one, the proliferation of false or misleading narratives which sow discord or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions. Two, continued calls for violence directed at U.S. critical infrastructure, soft targets and mass gatherings, faith-based institutions such as churches, synagogues, and mosques, institutions of higher education, racial and religious minorities, but also majorities, but anyways, facilities and personnel, including law enforcement and the military, the media, and perceived ideological opponents. And three, calls by foreign terrorist organizations for attacks on the United States based on recent events. Okay, so additional details. The convergence of violent extremist ideologies, false or misleading narratives, and conspiracy theories have and will continue to contribute to a heightened threat of violence in the United States. So the proliferation of false or misleading narratives which sow discord or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions. For example, there is widespread online proliferation of false or misleading narratives regarding unsubstantiated widespread election fraud. Unsubstantiated widespread election fraud. That's number one. That's the first bullet point. That's very interesting. And COVID-19. So number one, the current heightened threat environment include the key factors contributing to it were actually accurate. And so this is from February of 2022. Like, welcome to fucking reality in almost 2026. All right. This is bullshit. This narrative. That was number one, Homeland Security. This is what I mean. We are hiring people to work at the highest levels of government, and they are not hiring the right people to assess and analyze the bullshit propaganda that they're getting from the highest levels of our government, top-down control. And they're not doing their work. So Homeland Security, like I don't trust a lot, unfortunately, of what comes out of that organization anymore. But I do trust them a little bit more than CSIS at this point, the CSEC, because Canada is much worse. Okay, so by the way, so this is the point. Widespread election fraud and COVID-19. Grievances associated with these themes inspired violent extremist attacks during 2021. Bullshit. What was going on? And like, there's so many protests that happened, but I think it was like the far left radicals that were causing a lot of those violent extremist attacks. Malign foreign powers have and continue to amplify these false or misleading narratives in efforts to damage the United States. Anyway. So a lot of this, again, this is just from Homeland Security, and there is multiple mentions of COVID-19 misinformation. Domestic terrorists. Absolutely disgusting that they did that. They painted anyone that was sharing the truth, no matter what our qualifications were, our resumes or our backgrounds or experiences, and completely dismissed. And then we were targeted. By our own. Blue on blue. When I say blue on blue, I really mean it. All right. So I haven't seen the leaked briefs or whatever they're talking about, or newly declassified intelligence records, but I will take a look at those. But again, it's nothing surprising because I've been saying this for years. And in Canada as well, people like myself who were sharing information that went against the narrative got my life ruined. Not to sound dramatic. Okay, what else do I got here? No, Evan Solomon. Art dealings, money laundering with Carney, and then Carney chooses him to be one of his cabinet picks. So Canada and the European Union to deepen their collaboration on artificial intelligence and digital credentials and trust services. So remember when I was talking about how to defeat cognitive warfare, etc.? This is what we need to defeat. These measures, these bills. I'm not talking about defeating Evan Solomon. This guy's a moron. I think he should be fired. And I think that position needs to be have someone that we can trust and has common sense to be in that position. I would volunteer myself as well, because again, like, we got a lot to lose with like implementing these measures, with especially with the EU, and it's not good for Canada. Like, we are a sovereign country, or at least we used to be, to varying degrees, and we are losing our sovereignty and our freedoms. I'm not going to call him minister, but anyway, Evan hosted first meeting of Canada-European Union Digital Partnership Council, December 8th, 2025 in Montreal, Quebec. Today, the moron, Evan, Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation and Minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, hosted the first meeting of the Canada-European Union Digital Partnership Council with Henna Virkunen, the European Commission's Executive Vice President for Tech Sovereignty, Security and Democracy, while participating, in the G7 Industry, Digital and Technology Ministers meeting in Montreal. So they signed two memorandums of understanding on behalf of the government of Canada, not on behalf of the people, but based on the House of Commons and Cabinet and Doug Ford and these pricks that have like shares and stocks in these companies that are going to be utilized to implement and roll this out. These are the people that are going to be profiting off of it. So to be clear, when they say Canadian government, they mean the bloat at the top. They don't mean anyone else, and they definitely don't mean Canadian citizens. This is all about control and overreach, and we should not be trusting the EU or World Health Organization or World Economic Forum or the Trilateral Commission, etc., or the Bilderberg Cruise. Anyway, so it's already fucking signed. I'm sorry for swearing. That was unnecessary, but I'm so angry because I've been talking about this for literally 5 years. Over 5 years on the record. And showed Evan Solomon like his position, saying my concerns about him being in that cabinet position, like even almost a year ago now, whenever he was nominated in March or April of last year, whenever it was. And yeah, we did it. He signed it. I don't agree with that at all. I don't even know how we can like go about undoing that contracting agreement. All right. I think that's it for like the major points. Like, again, this is just crazy how bad Canada is getting, but it's not a surprise. All right, so this was posted 10 hours ago. Mike Benz, I cracked the entire Jeffrey Epstein mystery, and he's good, so I'm going to let him play, and I might again stop like throughout just to add some points.
BCCI was involved in some of the most sensitive intelligence operations of the Reagan-Bush years. Oh, that's exactly when Epstein went out on his own, including the secret sale of arms to Iran. Oh, you mean the ones that were where the chief middleman was Jeffrey Epstein's client, Adnan Khashoggi, and the U.S. side of the arms transaction was run by Jeffrey Epstein's fucking roommate?
That was quick. He just mentioned Adnan Khashoggi. And yeah, look at the title of this. Adnan Khashoggi, AK. That's his nickname anyways. Germanic monarchy, mandatory vaccines in Canada, and more. This was from May of 2023, I believe. Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, the 11th of May, 2023, and I'm wearing a hat that a unit master sniper from the PCLI gave me many years ago when I was... Anyway, so I talk about Adnan Khashoggi in there, his connections to the deep state, etc. And again, that was 2.5 years ago, actually over 2.5 years ago. And when I was new on Rumble, I had just gotten on it like 6 months before that or something like that. Anyway, maybe a few months longer than that, but yeah, I was new to Rumble because my YouTube accounts kept on getting deleted. I wonder why.
Stan Pottinger and the British side of this illegal arms deal was run by Jeffrey Epstein's fucking London partner that he flew out to London to do deals with. Epstein is literally every part in the early 1980s, literally all 4 parts. And who, by the way, was the head of Israeli military intelligence on the Israeli side of this? Ehud Barak, who Jeffrey Epstein would meet with 45 times, do business deals together in Mongolia, Cote d'Ivoire, the United States, Israel, Russia.
Yep, facts.
You have all 4 intelligence, not just random, the top people involved in Iran-Contra from all 4 of the intelligence agencies, from all 4 of the main countries associated with.
Let's see, Iran-Contra. Oh, no. Oh, look at that. Iran-Contra. Iran-Contra. Was the Challenger explosion connected to Iran-Contra? You know. Okay, Israel. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, you get the point. I have multiple videos on Iran-Contra as well. Friggin', why is my videos not showing? Okay.
With the action. Living with Jeffrey Epstein, doing multiple fucking multi-week sleepovers together in fucking London, living together as fucking cuddle buddies in a hotel in New York City, while Bear Stearns was running brokerage accounts at the CIA proprietary bank, doing the fucking gun running for the covert action. It's nothing but spy services. When you see how deep the BCCI shit goes, and here's another thing. Like, for example, okay, so Bear becomes one of the top 3 brokers transacting BCCI Capcom futures. Capcom is owned 50% by Kamal Adam, which trades finance Afghan Mujahideen pipelines. The Mujahideen, better known today as fucking ISIS, better known today as fucking Al-Qaeda, the Mujahideen was the CIA-backed Islamo-fascist group that the CIA set up BCCI to covertly fund through drug money on the Golden Crescent on the Afghan plains and massive flows of guns from Pakistan into Afghanistan. Remember when we played the fucking helicopter drop of National Security Advisor in 1979 Zbigniew Brzezinski.
U.S. National Security Advisor Brzezinski flew to Pakistan to set about rallying resistance. He wanted to arm the Mujahideen without revealing America's role.
Oh, he wanted to do a covert action to secretly fund the Mujahideen. Literally Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden, warrior on the road to peace. Anti-Soviet warrior puts his army on the road to peace. Hey, that's Osama bin Laden, funded by the CIA. Why? To get rid of the Soviets in Afghanistan, the height of the Cold War in 1979. But what did he want to do? 1979. Huh. So while Bear fucking Stearns, let me make sure I have this right.
And that video he's about to share, I've shared that now for years as well, and I've unpacked again like how radical groups have been created, especially in more recent times, and how it is by deep state actors that are supplying them. They're arming them with again, it's with money, with weapons, etc.
Let's do a little investigative journalism here, since evidently the New York Times is in a fucking retarded comatose state and evidently didn't bother to ask a single question about any significant part of the rigorous investigation they were conducting. So let's go back to this. So Bear Stearns becomes one of the top 3 brokers transacting BCCI Capcom futures, commodities, $2 billion worth. BCCI, the CIA's proprietary bank, set up to secretly fund the Mujahideen, ISIS, to kill Soviets. Here's Zbigniew Brzezinski in 1979, while Jeffrey Epstein is at Bear Stearns the year before he's made partner. This magic promotion to being made partner in 1979. Here's him dropping out of a fucking helicopter to covertly pump up the Mujahideen without revealing the United States government's role.
To Pakistan, U.S. National Security.
Actually, before we even get into that, all these newly released declassified documents that came out regarding the Epstein files, they're like largely redacted. It's absolutely disgusting. It's a slap in our faces. I don't know if you've seen the new releases, but again, it's pages and pages of like redacted information, completely blacked out, absolutely unacceptable. And even putting in information in there, photos, for example, of Michael Jackson and his family, and trying to connect him to the Epstein client list, etc. And Bill Clinton, he's finally getting more exposed. He was a disgusting human being. He was an absolute abuser of women and children. And somehow he and Hillary Clinton, again, with their friggin' foundations and their this and that, like becoming presidents or high-ranking positions. I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand how these disgusting human beings are elected. I mean, I do, but again, it's not helping.
Advisor Brzezinski flew.
We don't go to jail for actual crimes. Bill Clinton's not in jail. Yet I'm going to reiterate, there are people that didn't even go to the January 6th, what they're calling a riot, which was a deep state attempt at a coup, but went to jail, not even present at the Capitol that day, and went to jail. People's lives were ruined, and for again, just like a post or talking with people that were possibly at the protest or sharing information from the protest got you jail time. But raping minors, raping children, that doesn't get you jail time if you're Bill Clinton, I guess.
To Pakistan to set about rallying resistance. He wanted to arm the Mujahideen without revealing America's role.
Oh, he wanted to arm them. You mean through Doug Leese, the British covert arms trafficker that Jeffrey Epstein was flying to London to sleep at his house? Oh, you mean like through Stanley Pottinger, who Jeffrey Epstein was fucking living with and spooning with at night at a hotel in New York City they rented out together, covertly arming them out of the CIA's BCCI bank. And in 1979, while the CIA is running this operation to finance the Mujahideen, but without revealing the United States government's role, what was Bear Stearns doing? Sorry, remind me. Oh, they had a $2 billion book brokering transactions with BCCI and Capcom, the CIA bank, and Capcom, which is 50% owned by Kamal Adnan, which trades finance Afghan Mujahideen pipeline. Oh, well, this is exactly what the National Security Advisor and CIA were covertly trying to do, to covertly finance the Afghan Mujahideen pipelines. And Bear Stearns in the late 1970s, early 1980s, is got $2 billion worth of cash slushing through it, but it's Bear Stearns, it's not the US government. So, for example, if, say, Stan Pottinger or Doug Leese or Adnan Khashoggi or anyone in the CIA network involved in this whole thing wanted to get this financed but didn't want to reveal America's role, they could just have Bear set up a book and move the money to, I'm sorry, the Safari Club Saudi spy master, Kamal Adam. Oh, yeah. So Bear Stearns was flooding $2 billion of futures between the CIA proprietary bank and the CIA's Safari Club spy master, the five-nation covert consortium led by Saudi spy master Kamal Adam, who needed a bank that could move hundreds of millions of untraceable petrodollars. Oh, in 1982, Jeffrey Epstein was doing a crude oil deal. Oh, hey, 1982 is the year that Jeffrey Epstein got the fake Saudi passport while he was doing a oil pipeline deal with Stan Pottinger and Doug Leese, who were both running the Iran-Contra covert arms operation, while Bear Stearns, he's answering the phone and saying Bear Stearns speaking while he's left Bear Stearns for over a year. So, I'm sorry, Jeffrey Epstein's whole thing is that he could make funds sheltered and untraceable, and he's doing oil deals while he's got a fake Saudi passport and takes on Adnan Khashoggi as a client. Adnan Khashoggi, who owned the Safari Club and which was led by the Saudi spy master, home of Jeffrey Epstein's fake passport. And Kamal Adam was scaled up by BCCI, and Kamal Adam has a 50. By the way, Bear Stearns admitted to BCCI's London panel of brokers. This is, 1979 to 1980. Bear admitted to BCCI's London panel of brokers for Eurodollar futures and mirrored oil options. Oh shit! Did Jeffrey Epstein work at that on that in 1979? And then was made partner in 1980? Oh shit! Is that how he got plugged into the Doug Leese, Stan Pottinger, Adnan Khashoggi CIA network? Is it because while at Bear Stearns was working with the CIA's fucking proprietary bank? Safari Club's Iran-Saudi channel, because remember, Safari Club was set up in 76, pre-revolution in 79, begins using commodity mirrors that Bear Stearns was running to disguise weapons payments. Oh shit, that explains how Jeffrey Epstein is working with Doug Leese, the weapons dealer, because in 1979, he was probably working on the fucking CIA disguised payments using mirrored oil options to disguise weapons payments. Maybe that's why Doug Leese liked him in London. Because the fucking BCCI CIA operation that Doug Leese was running covert arms through to fund to give weapons to the fucking Mujahideen, Jeffrey Epstein had been working at Bear Stearns on fucking disguising the payments for the weapons Doug Leese was fucking buying. And you would know that if the New York Times reported who the deals were with. Did Jeffrey Epstein in 1979 and 1980 work on BCCI deals? If he did, it's fucking over. It's a fucking wrap. That bank was created by the CIA and went down in a ball of flames in the biggest scandal of the early 1980s because the CIA was openly using it for illegal narcotics and illegal weapons all over the Middle East, all over North Africa, all over Central Asia. And Bear Stearns admitted that they used their fucking complex, financial instruments. We're going to structure this as this, this swap and options, and it's going to look like it's, two counterparties betting on different futures on the price of oil. But actually, there is this offset created by the mirror that allows you to take skim, just siphon off the skim. And what you're doing is actually one counterparty is paying another for illegal guns, but they're disguising it as a market trade for oil swaps. Hey, assholes at the New York Times, is this why right here, top of the piece, you say, well, the key is Bear Stearns, the Bear Stearns stuff that we looked at so thoroughly. We looked at everything. We talked to 24 of his co-workers. We talked to 2 or 3 of his fucking direct bosses and managers. We can't tell you a single thing he worked with. Oh, because Bear Stearns at the time was actually disguising its mirrored oil deals that Jeffrey Epstein then immediately went to work on doing himself after he left Bear while still answering the phone as Bear Stearns. Oh, it's because Bear Stearns they were using commodity mirrors trades to disguise weapons payments for the CIA's bank. Well, that explains everything. If Jeffrey Epstein touched BCCI deals at Bear in 1979, you have the answer to the entire fucking mystery of Jeffrey Epstein. As I told you guys, it all goes back to Iran-Contra. Iran, when their government was overturned in 1979 in the Islamic Revolution, that's going to cause a fucking flurry of CIA activity to flood the zone with cash to dissidents, resistance movements. And at the same time, we're still funding the fucking Mujahideen out of the BCCI. BCCI is on record admitting to doing this. Jeffrey Epstein was promoted to partner. No one can explain why. He was just smooth and charming. Oh, actually, maybe it was because he was on the BCCI deal. And because it was a signature marquee deal in 1979, he got promoted to partner. Because this major multi-billion-dollar funnel, even the UK tribunal confirms Bear as broker of multiple BCCI shell accounts, CIA shell accounts, BCCI. Safari Club co-founder, 50% owner of Capcom. His Capcom trades cleared through Bear. So the guy who runs the Saudi CIA covert clandestine supercenter, the Safari Club, from 1976 to 1981, and to secretly disguise payments as ordinary course transactions to pay for these weapons deals, he uses Bear Stearns for it. And Jeffrey Epstein is at Bear Stearns in this exact time period admitting to using basically commodities options trades to secretly disguise those very same CIA, Saudi, probably Israeli and British as well, covert financing. It was technically run by the Saudis, but this was a joint US, UK, Israel foreign policy in the region. Jointly ran the Safari Club. In 1976, that's the year Jeffrey Epstein joined Bear Stearns. The Bear Stearns Forex desk opens correspondent account for the fledgling BCCI Luxembourg, 25 million daily turnover. That's the very year Jeffrey Epstein joined Bear Stearns. Right as BCCI is being scaled up by Kamal Adnan, the very counterparty in the Bear Stearns trades, specifically to launder Safari Club petrodollars. And Jeffrey Epstein was working on the oil deals right in 1982 when he got the fake Saudi passport. And Kamal Adam is the Saudi spy master who created the joint CIA Saudi Safari Club. Ace Greenberg. Hey, that name sounds familiar. Ace Greenberg set up the BCCI Luxembourg account to scale up BCCI and the CIA Saudi Intelligence Safari Club. Hey, that name sounds familiar. Isn't this the guy who hired Jeffrey Epstein and set him up with his daughter and made Jeffrey Epstein a made man? Personally greenlighting Bear Stearns' activity with the CIA to scale up the CIA's proprietary bank? Do you think Ace Greenberg then brought Jeffrey Epstein into these deals? Guys, we just broke the entire Jeffrey Epstein story. If Ace Greenberg brought Jeffrey Epstein into the BCCI deals at Bear, that explains literally everything. It explains Jeffrey Epstein's meteoric rise. It explains how he moved up in the company so quickly. It explains why everyone was so charmed by him. Hint, not because of his charm. It explains how he got all these huge clients so quickly. It explains how he, in 1981 and 1982, he's already meeting with major CIA, MI6, Saudi intelligence officials. He's meeting with Doug Lee, Stan Pottinger, Adnan Khashoggi, Middle Eastern sheikhs. Oh, it's because he handled BCCI at Bear. Ace Greenberg opened those accounts before Ace Greenberg became CEO. The article says that Ace Greenberg brought Jeffrey Epstein into the most lucrative deals. Here are the lucrative deals. You immediately have Jeffrey Epstein handling CIA financing, disguising illegal weapons sales as complex financial transactions for commodities or oil. That explains how Jeffrey Epstein got a specialty in complex financial transactions. Oh, because he got it because he was put on the BCCI account. Oh, that explains how he's working with Edgar Bronfman, because BCCI was helping US, Saudi, British, but also Israeli interests in the Iran-Iraq affair and in Afghanistan. That explains how he was protected every time he got in trouble with fraud.
I just wanted to share a video that I've reposted and shared before, but it's also incredible. It's from Just a Dude. The title's False Flags, The Secret History of Al-Qaeda, and it's the Corbett Report. But this was incredibly interesting. And again, I've shared this and reposted. And it's over 5 hours long. But I highly encourage people to take a look at this, because there's a lot of information in there as well. And I would encourage Mike Benz. He's probably tracking a lot of what's in that film, likely not all of it. And it would be a mind blower if he wants to admit it or not. I'd love to talk to him, though.
The Justice Department takes action against Jeffrey Epstein for securities laws violations. Jeffrey Epstein openly says in court that Bear Stearns was actually secretly moving money for the CIA. Well, that can't come out in open court. Okay, let's not move forward with prosecution. Don't want to reveal national security secrets. That explains why Jeffrey Epstein has evaded arrest for all of his fraud, all this bullshit about scams, schemes, ruthless cons. How does he keep getting away with it? Oh, because from the very beginning, what did BCCI collapse in? BCCI collapsed in a heap of fraud, scams. What was their cons? Let's put in those keywords. Time Magazine, BCCI, the dirtiest bank of all. Bear Stearns admits to doing mirrored trades to facilitate CIA covert financing to the Mujahideen. In 1979, while Jeffrey Epstein is there. That explains why Jeffrey Epstein, because the French intelligence was also a big part of the Safari Club. That explains how Jeffrey Epstein has these French intelligence connection points. That explains how Jeffrey Epstein has these British intelligence connection points. That explains how he's got these Israeli intelligence connection points. That explains how he's got these Saudi intelligence connection points. And that definitely explains how he has all these CIA connection points. They're all connected through the late 1970s Safari Club network that then scaled up BCCI, using Bear Stearns to do it while he was there making his miracle rise. So all that extraordinary profit, extraordinary deal flow is not disproving the spy services thing. It literally proves it. If he was making $800,000 a year at 25 years old working on BCCI deals at Bear, oh, but you don't fucking tell us a single deal. Because what if that was the case? The whole fucking thing would collapse. It would be imagine that. Bear Stearns in 1976, Ace Greenberg, who wasn't even CEO at the time, just a senior executive, opens the BCCI, the CIA bank account, and then brings in Jeffrey Epstein as his personal protege. And Epstein never handled in 5 years a BCCI deal, while Bear Stearns kept working that for a decade, 1976 to 1985. Guys, I think we literally just cracked the entire Epstein mystery. Alex Acosta's statement that it was above his pay grade as a prosecutor, he was told to back off because he belonged to intelligence, is because he belonged to intelligence, so to speak. He was working with and facilitating otherwise illicit, because it's not illicit if it's a CIA authorized transaction, but otherwise illicit arms deals, probably drug flows. If you remember, Ghislaine Maxwell, the first example that came to mind was him moving money for the Sinaloa drug cartel when she was talking to the DOJ. But we just cracked it. His personal mentor opened the BCCI accounts. The reason the New York Times fucking duped and dumped shit into the mouth of true believers, like the Michael Tracy type crowds, or people who want to feel themselves as smart because they're just on the opposite side of whatever, low brain activity slop comes out from a lot of other people on the Epstein thing. They didn't name a deal here, a single deal. And there's a very obvious question that can be asked right now to the New York Times. Frankly, the Justice Department, if there's still any ongoing investigation about Jeffrey Epstein, should fucking subpoena the New York Times for all those files. Just run a keyword search. 4 letters. You'll have the answer. BCCI. Did Jeffrey Epstein work on the banking transactions of the Central Intelligence Agency, which connected to 4 other intelligence agencies and foreign governments between 1976 and 1980? If the answer to that is yes, you now can explain everything. And it's a really simple story that explains all of his high net worth clients, that explains how he got away with and was above the law for all of his fraudulent business transactions in the U.S. Virgin Islands, to the Towers Financial Ponzi scheme, to the SEC violations at Bear, that explains the exact geographic nature of his top connections, U.S., UK, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and France, that explains everything, his entire career, from the moment he stepped foot in Bear Stearns' office to the day he died. Well, there's your answer. If there is still any ongoing investigation, you have something very actionable. To the extent that there's any ongoing investigation by this Justice Department into Jeffrey Epstein's criminal enterprise, subpoena the New York Times for all files and compiling this story, or the Justice Department, the FBI, can knock on the doors of everyone the FBI interviewed. FBI, as part of our criminal investigation, we're asking Michael Tenenbaum to sit for a voluntary interview to tell us the same thing they told the New York Times. We actually just have one question for you. Hey, Michael Tenenbaum, you're Jeffrey Epstein's boss. Did Jeffrey Epstein ever work on a BCCI deal at Bear? If the answer is yes, it's game over. It's literally done right there. Oh, he started his career as a banker for CIA oil, weapons, covert action around Iran, Iraq, Israel, Afghanistan, as part of joint US, Saudi, UK, and French intelligence. It's over. It's like literally over. If Ace Greenberg, in 1976, opened the BCCI account at Bear, if he brought Jeffrey Epstein in, Jeffrey Epstein literally started his career. All he ever knew was being a CIA financial stakeholder banker. If he started his career working on how to
mic off. Speaking of the CIA, I just wanted to break up the video a little bit. I'm not going to share this LinkedIn person that I have had ongoing discussions with. This person, actually, I'm going to go to his account first on LinkedIn. I don't want to triangulate him. And I don't think he's in Canada right now, but he was. Anyways, defense intelligence analyst, expert in multi-source, SIGINT, ELINT, HUMINT, OSINT, GeoINT, foreign language communication, fusion, and behavioral intelligence. He's got like an incredible resume. And so we've been chatting. He reached out to me because he saw some of the information I was sharing on LinkedIn and other means. And he was interested in, again, in conversating, which is very common in this community. And that's how you build networks. Anyway, so I had asked him, okay, fair on some things. I'm like, what is your assessment of the Ukraine-Russian conflict? And so this is how people start. Like, it has to be like an easy thing just to see like how well read in people are. And so that's usually like one of the first questions I will ask people. And he had a good response. So the issue is complex. And although Eastern Europe is not my core specialization, which it's not, which is fair, he's more Middle East and in other areas. And so anyway, I can provide an analytical perspective based on my observations. The conflict has generated a set of financial and political dynamics that merit closer examination, particularly with respect to where the incentives for sustaining the war may lie. Absolutely. I noticed that all those who strongly support Ukraine and made significant financial contributions have strong ties to WEF. The Canadian example is noticeable. Sorry, the Canadian example is notable given the number of cabinet members previously involved with WEF. Bang on. To be clear, my assessment of President Putin remains that he operates as an authoritarian actor with a high tolerance for risk and a pattern of coercive decision-making. I absolutely agree with that. So when people think that when when I'm condemning what Ukraine government is doing and what they're doing in Ukraine and the corrupted officials from within and who they're operating with internationally, it doesn't mean I condone what Russia is doing or Putin is doing. I literally hated that when people used to call me a pro-Russian propagandist whenever I would call major issues out, like the Ghost of Kiev, like Snake Island, etc. And I'm like, I'm not a supporter of authoritarian regimes at all. And I would like it if this war, this proxy war, wasn't even started. And even before it, like 10 days before it actually kicked off, I have a social media post that I've shared multiple times. I said, like, we need to, like, like, Russia and Ukraine might be going to war. And 10 days later, on or around, they did. And there was ways that we could have mitigated that. And I've shared the proof of that as well. And so I'm not disagreeing that Putin remains an authoritarian actor with a high tolerance for risk and pattern coercive decision-making. At the same time, there are still multiple unanswered questions regarding the broader motivations behind the protracted nature of this conflict. The interplay of political alliances, financial interests, and institutional commitments suggests that the drivers extend beyond the stated objectives. Brilliant. And that's not even his expertise. So I did comment back. So I said, I agree with your analysis regarding the financial drivers, particularly the WEF nexus. To expand on that, if we apply a strict realist lens to the conflict's timeline, the democracy versus autocracy framework collapses under scrutiny. We are witnessing a proxy war sustained by a highly curated information campaign. Key early narratives, such as the Ghost of Kiev or the Snake Island incident, were proven to be manufactured morale boosters. And so this is something that does happen during wars and pre-war for people within these countries. But when NATO and security analysts and international security analysts take that information and they believe it to be true, I question your training. I question your capabilities because, like, again, the highest levels of government hired, like, people for, like, billion-dollar contracts, like, absolutely insane, and they got everything wrong. Anyway, so where was I going with this? Okay, so proven to be manufactured morale boosters. More concerning is the willingness to risk global escalation, international escalation based on false premises, such as the initial attempt to invoke Article 5 after a Ukrainian air defense missile struck Poland. And that's where 2 Polish farmers died. And that's where I said even the chief of defense staff was on LinkedIn discussing Article 5, which is declaring a world war and getting NATO involved. Absolutely ridiculous, and blamed it on Russia. So the chief of defense staff, this is also alarming. Like, where are you getting your int briefs? Where are you getting your assessments from? I question so much. And this is information that I tried to give even to the highest levels of Global Affairs Canada, which is the equivalent to Homeland Security in the US, and fish kisses, despite the fact that I was working with the directors of Global Affairs, teaching them the courses, the Standing Rapid Deployment Team courses for like the cream of their crop of Global Affairs, the people to respond to natural and man-made disasters internationally. I was running those courses. I was using bases. I was using hospitals. I was using airports. I was using prisons, etc. And you don't want to listen to me, Global Affairs? Okay, all right. What do I know? It's so frustrating. And again, this is not a brag or to be cocky. It's literally frustrating because there are actually people like me who have spent our lives, 24 and a half years, in the international security industry in various capacities, and we are getting overlooked for woke DEI hires and friends and family of people that are working in government, that are just trying to push a narrative that just makes them richer, in spite of Canadians. Anyway, okay, so Article 5, after Ukrainian air defense missile struck Poland, or the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines, which is increasingly attributed to NATO-aligned actors rather than Russia. Domestically, the picture in Kiev is far from the democratic ideal presented in the West. With elections suspended, religious freedoms curtailed, specifically targeting the Orthodox Church, and the 2014 maiden transition bearing all the hallmarks of a US-backed coup, the sovereignty argument is weak. The question of who benefits is key. With aid transparency virtually non-existent and historical ties between figures like Hunter Biden and Ukrainian energy firms, the conflict appears to be functioning as a massive wealth transfer mechanism. The beneficiaries are not the Ukrainian people, but the defense contractors, asset managers like BlackRock, and the institutional interests you mentioned. And so this is just back and forth conversations I have on LinkedIn on a semi-regular basis, believe it or not, and on other media. And because this information, for some reason, is just not making it to the top. And if it is, they're just refusing to listen to it. All right, back on to Mike Benz. He's awesome. I want to reiterate, I would really like to have a sit down with him. We can exchange notes. Fuck. We'd be a power duo.
How do you become a specialist in asset sheltering for untraceable transactions. Oh, because he started his career working on sheltering transactions for the CIA out of Bear to disguise CIA weapons payments using complex commodities and options and futures trading. You have so many leads to get an answer to this. Quick, before they all get assassinated tomorrow. I'm joking, God forbid. But like literally, ask Michael Tenenbaum. You were his boss. Did he ever work on BCCI stuff at Bear? Clark Schubach. You were his manager. Did he ever work on a BCCI transaction at Bear? All of them. And then it's over. It explains everything. Yeah, all this happened. The Adnan Khashoggi, the Iran-Contra, the Les Wexner stuff, the Bill Clinton stuff, and why he's at the White House 17 times in the 1990s. Why he's working with Ehud Barak, the head of Israeli military intelligence. Why he had Adnan Khashoggi as a client, the Saudi intelligence. The whole Jean-Luc Brunel and French intelligence that he worked with in like the Cote d'Ivoire things. Oh, it's because it's all just, he just started his career doing the financing for the Safari Club through the Bear BCCI portfolio. And then all of the related deals in his complex offshore bank accounts run through his mystery fund, it was all just related deal flow. That's why he's meeting with the weapons brokers in 1982, Doug Lease, and sleeping over, reverse cowgirling with Stan Pottinger in a hotel room while they lived together in New York City. This is an absolute bombshell. And we didn't learn this from the New York Times. We fucking opened up the guts of the New York Times lies and pried out, on the one hand, a very dirty and ugly, but on the other hand, actually a very clean and elegant explanation for the entire past 40 years of Jeffrey Epstein mysteries. It was just the BCCI banker, if that is the case. It could be any number of permutations. But the fact that that account was opened up by the guy who recruited him, Ace Greenberg, Bear is listed by the New York Federal Reserve in 1978. Jeffrey Epstein was there from 1976. Right, the year they opened the Bear opens the BCCI branch. 1978, as he's making his come up, Bear listed by the New York Fed as a primary government securities dealer for BCCI's New York branch. Fresh Saudi cash. Oh, that's how you get the fake Saudi passport for Jeffrey Epstein and clients like Adnan Khashoggi, the Saudi arms dealer. Push the repos, Bear repos, funding Safari Club operations. Again, Ace Greenberg ran point at that at Bear. 1979, 1980, the last 2 years that he was there. They admitted to London. Remember, Jeffrey Epstein was flying back and forth with London. They said it was the first time he'd ever seen intergenerational wealth. Based on what? Fuck you. It's a just so story. You made that up. They were using these Bear Stearns complex financial transactions that Ace Greenberg, Jeffrey Epstein's personal mentor, who made his whole career at Bear, was spearheading to disguise CIA weapons payments. Safari Club was run by the CIA. Looks like actually the coordinator on that was Martin Rosen, Bear's commodity head. Hey, Control F Martin. Oh, no Martin Rosen. They're literally funding every aspect of this for the entire period. This explains why the entire period and Jeffrey Epstein's 32-year continuous relationship with Bear Stearns is because the Bear Stearns network was the BCCI network. That explains all the deal flow, all of it. 1986, right as Iran-Contra comes to a head, Bear terminates BCCI in a Ace Greenberg personal memo to the board. And that is when Jeffrey Epstein branches out to Towers Financial and then to Les Wexner. After BCCI dissolves in a hail of bankruptcy and scandal and Justice Department investigations and Senate and House hearings. Guys, I think we literally just cracked the entire Jeffrey Epstein case. All of it. If the New York Times had simply asked any one of his managers, any one of his colleagues, any one of his associates, he worked on a BCCI deal there, and the answer is yes, then the explanation for all of this is because Jeffrey Epstein started off his career as a CIA banker. Even if not primarily, that's what plugged him into this whole network. International intrigue, Saudi billionaires, Israeli military intelligence, British arms dealers, Spanish and French royal family, and then all of the CIA conduits that we've covered for the past several years. It's all explained if, as the New York Times said, Ace Greenberg plugged him into the most lucrative deals at Bear, and that included Ace Greenberg's BCCI portfolio. So it's over. There's a very, very easy answer. It's yes, no. I think we all know the answer. And I think that's why the New York Times never asked the question, or they did ask the question. And that news would shake the entire world. It just wasn't fit to print. All right. That's it for tonight. I want to meditate on this. I can't believe we just cracked this. So I don't want to do a music outro tonight. Thank you all for joining me. Good night. Godspeed.
Godspeed.
I will see you on the internet.
That was so good. He's amazing. So anyways, a lot of information. And I'm likely going to do another video today again because I'm still not feeling well. Again, this is not a complaint or anything like that. So, no. But there's a couple of videos that I am interested in showing you guys again. And so there's one of the titles is We Need to Talk About Sandy Hook by Peter Klein. If you guys are interested in that today. We've got Bilderberg, the movie. Very interesting. And we've got Room 237. And so I'll be looking at those today. And if you guys want to join me, I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I will post another video. So on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.